everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody has had an awesome and is still having an awesome weekend. I've had a good one. It's been a little bit stormy and humid here. We've had a heck of a lot of rain, and we did have a thunderstorm, but it wasn't particularly spectacular. I have to admit to being a little disappointed. It wasn't that great. However, the hope was it would, clear the air a bit and, get rid of some of that humid air. Nope. Did not have the desired effect. So, we still have very high humidity, although it's a little bit less. It was like 100% humidity, and now it's down to like 78%. So it's down a wee bit, but it's still pretty unpleasantly humid, and it makes sleeping really rather difficult because it's very uncomfortable. So yeah, in terms of sleep this week, I have not had a great week because it's just been too horribly oppressively humid. And I was hoping that we'd have a huge and spectacular thunderstorm with, lots of lightning and lots of rain and stuff and all of that would clear away the humid air. No such luck. However, we are under a thunderstorm warning for tomorrow, so hopefully tomorrow will do the job. I am not tremendously hopeful. Unfortunately, storms here in the UK are not nearly as nicely predictable as storms are in the United States, simply because the United States is considerably much more massive than the UK is. The UK is a collection of islands just off of the coast of Europe. And so, with the jet stream and all of that, and it being a group of islands, and it's a little bit complicated to explain, but yeah, we don't necessarily have the most predictable storms, unfortunately. So anyway, that's been the story of my week. Not sleeping very much at night, working hard during the day, and just trying to keep going. But here we are. We've somehow got to Sunday again, and I'm just trying to figure out where the heck the week has gone. So in music news, it is the 40th anniversary of the whole Band Aid Live Aid event, which happened in July 1985. I remember it very, very well. DJ, that is definitely a Songwriting Simplified question and not a Sunday Night Live question, but it's a good one. So hold on to that question, please. Hold on to that question, and definitely bring that question up on Wednesday. That would be good. But thank you. Anyway. Where was I? Yeah, I've totally forgotten what I was saying. Classical. Anyway, let's see who is here. Oh, yes, Live Aid. That's what I was talking about. Yes, 40 years ago, this past week has been the 40th anniversary of Live Aid and Band Aid. I remember it very, very well. I have some very vivid memories, actually. I remember Freddie Mercury's performance with Queen. I remember being utterly spellbound by his performance and his musicianship and his showmanship. He totally stole the show and had that entire audience eating out of his hand. I also have vivid memories also of Phil Collins doing a solo piano and vocal version of Take a Look at Me Now, which is actually quite a nice song of his. He kind of played a couple of really garishly wrong notes, and the look on his face when he did so was just priceless. But I remember Phil Collins playing the Wembley show and then taking a helicopter down to Heathrow Airport and getting on a Concorde and flying over to LA for the LA show, where he played with a few different acts, as I remember. And he did another solo piano version of In the Air Tonight, which is actually very good. So I have lots of abiding memories of that night. That whole day. And Bob Geldof swearing on live TV in the UK. You guys in the United States will not have seen it, but you might find it on YouTube, where he basically said, hang on, my chair's got stuck. He said basically, give us your fucking money. And of course, the F word was just not really a thing that you said on British TV back then in 1985. It was just like, it's just something that was just a no, you don't say it. But he said it. So passionate was Bob Geldof about ensuring that they raised as much money as they possibly could. And it was one of those moments. It was kind of, I mean, a lot of people refer to that as kind of like a watershed moment in television history in the UK, because he dropped an F-bomb before what we call the watershed, which is why it's called a watershed moment. The watershed typically is at 9 p.m. here in the UK, which means that you don't have profanity, you don't have nudity, you don't have any of that stuff on TV before 9 p.m. After 9 p.m., that's kind of 9 p.m. through to the early hours of the morning is regarded as, adult TV time. And so, swearing was not really a thing before the watershed at all. It was definitely not allowed. And Bob did it kind of like in the middle of the afternoon. And being Scottish and kind of growing up with kind of profane language to some degree, because it's kind of part of our culture here in Scotland. I remember kind of like being a little bit nonplussed by it. I was just like, okay, everybody's making this great big fuss about Bob Geldof letting an F-bomb go. Oh, well. But yeah, as DJ says, the Live Aid concerts brought many interesting musical events. There were lots of great musical moments, like Sting and Branford Marsalis, and all of that. That was great. Yeah, there were lots of great things. Some which I remember directly, and some I've had my memory refreshed just recently with the documentaries that have been going on celebrating the Live Aid event on British TV. I don't know that you guys have had it in the United States as well, but I'm assuming that you may have. And if you have, I hope that you've been having your memory refreshed by what was pretty much a seminal moment in not just music history, but in history just broadly, I think, where the plight of people in Ethiopia and Sudan was brought to the West's attention because of the civil war that was taking place in those two regions, which led to a tremendous famine, plus, of course, the drought at the same time. So it was a seminal moment historically, I think, not just from a music point of view. I think just from a purely historical point of view as well. So yeah, so that's kind of the music news. I wonder how many of you actually remember much of it. Just Bob says, I watched the Live Aid on HBO when it was happening. Phil Collins flew the Concorde and played both countries and drummed for Led Zepp reunion. Yeah, he did. And Phil Collins' commentary, kind of since that reunion of the Led Zepp reunion thing, he was just like, yeah, it was pretty awful. And I think a lot of people broadly who watched it agree it was a little bit awful. Their kind of reunion part of it. Yeah, DJ, that question about Live Aid concert, which artists would you invite? Good question. Don't know. Being that I have very much a jazz bias, I would probably make the whole event a 24-hour jazz event, to be honest, with the world's greatest jazz musicians. All right, let's see who is actually here, rather than me just kind of, cherry picking out of the chat here. So we got Billy Morgan, we got Bobby Booth, we've got Daryl Harrison, we've got Mike and Venus, we've got Stina over in Denmark, for whom it is very late at night. It's going to be like 1:15 in the morning for her, which is why she says, have a great show. Christina, I hope you enjoy the replay when you get to watch it. And thank you for dropping in the chat as well. That's very cool. Dwayne is here too, and Goldberg, who is in Europe as well, is here. He says, I spent 6 to 7 hours with Studio One today. Kitchen is tidy, so I'm ready for the show. Awesome. And small drum roll. Chris Manrakner is back amongst us, folk. Please do give him a very warm welcome. Chris is a great friend of the channel and has been around this community for a good wee while. He's a great guy. For those of you that don't know who he is, he's a great guy. He's a composer and songwriter and stuff. So he's a great guy. He's hilarious, although he would never admit that. But he is actually genuinely a funny guy. He's got a terrific sense of humor. But he's also a terrific guy to have around in this community. So please do give Chris Manrakner a very warm welcome back amongst us. He's been away for a wee while, but we're glad to have you back, Chris. Welcome back, mate. We got Paul Morgan here. We got DJ Vu, and we got Steve Wilson. We got RME. Well, we got Don Oliver. We've got, who else do we have? We got Sean Carr. And we got Just Bob here as well. Who else do we have? Oh, we got Rich Cresswell here too, which is great. And I think I got to the bottom of the chat. Oh, Christina is actually awake, which is awesome. She's actually totally here. Yay! And we've got Kyle, who says, hilariously, in typical Kyle Dredrusiak fashion, he says, I'm starting to decompose. Well, if you're going to decompose, make sure you do it in a diminished scale, of course, because that would just be funny. All right, I'm going to go back through it, and I'm going to try and pick out some questions other than the ones that I've already cherry-picked, obviously. But I'm going to try and pick out some questions. If you've got a question, please, and by the way, the subject for tonight really is Studio One, Personas products, recording, mixing, mastering. That's kind of the scope of this show. If you've got a songwriting question, a composing question, arranging question, or a music theory question, hold on to those. Save those for Wednesday when we have Songwriting Simplified, because that is the show for those questions. And the opposite applies. So if on Wednesday you have a Studio One question or a Studio One problem, hang on to it. Save it for either a Studio One meetup that happens before the next Sunday show, or you can save it for the Sunday show and we can discuss that then. I want to try and keep the two shows as separate as I possibly can, although sometimes when there's just a dearth of questions, I will take anything, to be honest. But for right now, I want to keep the focused. So I hope everyone gets and understands that. All right, so we've got 20 people here, which is kind of around about par for a Sunday Night Live. Admittedly, I did no advertising for this whatsoever because I got back home very late. I've been out all day, dodging showers, heavy rain showers, and being a domestic person, as well as doing all the shopping and stuff like that, and trying to avoid getting rained on because I don't like anyone raining on my parade. All right, so yes, I do have a Control-Alt-Delete t-shirt. Yes. For those of you that know Windows will get the joke. For those of you that don't know Windows, you're probably going, what the heck is Control-Alt-Delete? Well, if you're on a Windows PC and you press and hold Control and Alt, and then you press the Delete key, it takes you to a blue screen where you can open the task manager or you can just shut your computer off. So, yes, that's what this is. Sometimes in life, I would like to press a Control-Alt-Delete for life. Sometimes. And that's why I got this t-shirt, because I thought that's kind of funny. Especially when what I do is pretty much computer-based all day, every day. So I just kind of thought it was a wee bit funny. Artemis says, how do you record your computer in Studio One such that you avoid feedback loop, IO issue or something, Windows PC? All right, so I think you're talking about doing this show, for example. How do I do that without getting feedback or creating a feedback loop? There are two things you can do. In my case, I'm not wearing headphones, but I could. And actually, if you go watch some of my older shows, I used to do exactly that. I used to wear headphones. And then that way, you just don't get a feedback loop. It just doesn't happen. Number two, you could do what I do now, which is you could either dim your speakers, which is what I've got. I have the PreSonus monitor station, and it's got this cool little dim button and a little attenuator controller. And I can set that so that basically my speakers are just loud enough that I can hear them, but quiet enough that the microphone is not going to pick up the speakers and create a feedback loop. And that's kind of what I have set at the moment. So when I am playing the theme tune music for the show, for example, I am listening to it at a volume level that is barely above conversational level. It is very, very quiet. It's probably about, let's see, what have I got the attenuator set at? The attenuator is set at minus 40 dB, which basically means when with this dim thing switched on, it goes from my normal volume level and it cuts off 40 dB. So it turns the speakers down by 40 dB. And for me, that means that my microphone does not pick up my speakers and I don't get a feedback loop. And it means I can hear the music at a level that is, you know, I can hear the whole spectrum of the music and it's not too loud. I sometimes record this way. But you got to be careful about where you place the mic if you're going to record that way. So if I'm doing vocals in here and I want to record without headphones and just use my speakers, I need to make sure that my microphone, the rear of the microphone, is facing the speakers so that the microphone rejects the speakers, being a condenser microphone. And then that way the speakers never actually get picked up by the front of the microphone. And then I've got to make sure that I'm a certain distance away from the speakers to ensure that happens. And then making sure that the volume level of the speakers is such that that's not an issue either. So long as I can hear it, that it's loud enough for me to be able to hear what's going on, I don't need it to be terrifically loud. Especially when I'm doing this show, for example. This show, I'm not generally doing anything that's kind of incredibly in-depth mixing, although sometimes I have to. And in those cases where I do need to do something that's a little bit more in-depth, I have headphones and I can quickly stick some headphones on and mute the speakers and I can hear everything at full volume and everything's fine. But for the most part, when I'm just doing what I'm doing now, which is talking to you guys, talking to camera, then, or I'm just playing something and I'm not really going into any huge amount of depth of that requires actual mixing techniques, then yeah, I have the speakers low. You know, if I'm actually playing the keyboard and I'm playing along to backing tracks as well, the keyboard is at such a level that it doesn't come out the speakers very loud either. And so everything's kind of balanced. I've had this set for quite a long time. But you can go back and you can watch much older live streams, especially ones from my old studio, the one before this one. And you'll find that, yeah, I did have headphones on a lot. And to be honest, the reason why I stopped using headphones was I just got tired of using headphones because I have the headphones on for a whole hour for the show. And I just got tired of doing that. And so I decided that I would set my speakers in such a way that I don't actually need the headphones. And that's kind of the way I do it now. And of course, the other thing is, in OBS, I also have it's not a gate. I have an expander set on the microphone input because in OBS, you can have, I think I think it's like 6 or 8 channels of audio input and output from OBS. So I have Studio One on one channel, which is a stereo channel, and I have my mic on another, which is a mono channel, and I have the keyboard on another channel, which is also a mono channel in OBS. And I can treat them differently, so there is no treatment at all on the Studio One channel. No treatment at all. On the mic channel, there is a limiter, there is an EQ, and there is also an expander. And so when I stop talking and play the track, I have the expander set in such a way that the audio coming from the speakers does not open the gate so that the audio goes into the microphone. It's still below that threshold where it's not going to get triggered, which means my microphone is completely silent when audio is playing out of my speakers. So when I'm not talking, that is. And so that's kind of like just an extra layer of protection, I guess, to ensure that you guys hear Studio One directly from the computer and not from my microphone, not from the speakers going into the microphone and creating a phase issue, or that we get feedback. So it's a combination of all of those three things. It does take a little bit of experimentation to set, but once you've set it, you can forget it until such a time as there is a new version of OBS. Minor updates, not a problem. A new version of updates will blow away all of your audio settings, apart from things like the plugins that you're using in OBS. Those are fine, but all the actual routing in OBS gets blown away. So the thing to do is, once you've got it set up, take a screenshot of it and save that. And then, you know, when those settings get blown away, you can just open that screenshot up and you can very, very quickly reconfigure everything. It takes 10 seconds. I did that actually just recently because something like that happened maybe about 2 or 3 months ago when there was a new version of OBS released. And when that happened, I had to reconfigure things. And yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but it only took 10 seconds for me to fix. All right. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to go back up and see if there are any other questions. There's some, you guys have got some funny chat going on. Lar, 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 lar. Okay, DJ's got another interesting question here. Let's see. Considering today's technological development, is it possible to organize a project like Live Aid online where not only the big names could participate? Probably. And you could probably involve organizations like OBS and other streaming platforms. You could probably get them involved, and you would need a lot of sponsorship because you would need a lot of gear. You would need camera switching. You'd need all sorts of other shit as well. So yeah, it could be done. I would imagine it would take a feckin' lot of organizing. Bob Geldof was, I think it took him 9 months to organize the Live Aid shows in total, I think. Rich Cresswell says, on the back of the rather important point of why a song has a beginning and an end, how scaly does a scale need to be? Good question, and definitely one for Wednesday. So, but yeah, that's a good, funny question. How scaly does a scale need to be? Yes. Just Bob says, I wrote a song about my father-in-law. He is hard of hearing. In Studio One, can I use the video editor to scroll the words so he can read them as they are sung, like karaoke? You cannot do that natively in Studio One. However, there is a lyrics display that is a little bit like karaoke. Let me see if I can find my song that I used for this. This song is a little elderly, so it may or may not load. Let's see. Let's see if it does it. Okay, it does. All right, so alrighty, so I'm going to show you this. So let's go and hit that button there. So this song is from my now 9-year-old EP. I know, I'm as time goes by between when I released this EP. Actually, no, this is not from my EP. This is a song I did in 2019. Okay, so it's only 6 years old. It's not 9 years old. 6 years, it's not so bad. It's not 9 years. Anyway, so this song is called Dig Myself a Hole. And it is based on something that the then 2018-2019 British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said. And I just thought it was hilarious that he said it. And so I built an entire song around what he said, which was, I'd rather die in a ditch than, I forget what he was referring to. But it was something where he said, I'd rather die in a ditch than do that. And I thought, he's digging himself a hole. And so that's how the whole song was born. The whole song was born literally in that speech that he gave. And I just thought it was hilarious. So I decided I was going to make a kind of shuffle blues song out of what he said. So this is that song, and this is the lyrics display. Now, what is cool about this lyrics display is you can enlarge the current text here and also have the current text in blue, previous text grayed out, and then the next text is white, and you can change these colors as well. I've just left them the way that they are, and I've got the font size set at 30, but you can change this to much larger if you want to, and then you can set the ahead, which is basically a number of beats ahead of the line, so that the next line is highlighted blue before you get to it. So I've got it set to 2, but you can set this to whatever you want. And then you could have it left justified, or you could have it centered. I like it centered because for me, this is how I write lyrics anyway. And so I'm going to just jump straight into just before the vocals come in, and you'll see what it does. When everything's against me, my back against the wall, holding all the words, 'cause I feel 2 feet tall. I'll stand and shout, no holding back. Do or die, gonna dig myself a hole. Alright, so you get the idea. I don't need to play this all the way through, but you get the idea that it shows the first, the line that's coming up in blue, and then the line that is yet to come is in white, and then lines that are done are grayed out. Bob says, can this lyric display be recorded, downloaded to MP3 or disc? Well, MP3 is not going to be any good for you because MP3 is audio. If you want somebody to see it, it needs to be displayed. So you need to record the screen. So this is where something like OBS would be really useful. Or you can use the Windows snipping tool. In Windows 11, you can make a video using the Windows snipping tool. And if you set it up right, you can capture the computer audio at the same time. Personally, I use OBS because OBS is a doddle to set up. It's so simple, even muggins here can set it up, and it works. Obviously, because I've done like nearly 400 shows for Sunday Night Live. without any issues whatsoever on, you know, a couple of different computers. So what you would have to do is you would have to grab this guy, and you can make it a wee bit bigger if you want to. And then you can just, you know, screen record the song, basically. When everything's against me, my back against the wall, holding all the words, cards I feel 2 feet tall, I'll stand and shine. So basically what you want to do is you want to record the screen showing this. Now, you don't have to have the mixer in the background. You might prefer to close the mixer in the background and just, you know, have this kind of front and center. You can make it as big as you want. You could just like completely cover up everything that's, you know, not relevant there so that it's completely front and center. In fact, why don't we just completely cover up the entire dot altogether? There we go. So literally it's just covering up Studio One entirely. No holding back. Do or die, gonna dig myself a hole. Oh, do or die, gonna dig myself a hole. And there we go. So you can totally just screen record this. I now have to figure out how to get that back to how it was before. There we go. And so, yeah, so you can totally just set this up and then use OBS to screen record this. And if you don't want your little taskbar to appear at the bottom and you just want Studio One to be in focus, that's dead easy too. You can just use the taskbar settings to hide the taskbar. And then the taskbar is out of the way and you're just dealing with just this. And then your father can read the lyrics off of this lyric display just like karaoke, and it'd be perfect. So just record it. Basically, just record the screen. Alrighty, let's go back and catch up with the chat a little bit more. So yeah, you would want to record the video, and of course with OBS you can set it to automatically write to MP4, and then all you got to do is just give your dad the MP4, or you can burn the MP4 to a DVD. Kind of up to you how you want to do it. We've got 26 people here, which is fecking awesome, but we've only got 18 likes. So I would like a little burst of you folks to spam the like button, expend those finger muscles, and spam the like button. Let's get up to 26, 27 likes. That would be great. So we got the same number of likes as people watching. That would be awesome. I would appreciate that very, very much. Let's see. Mike from Peace Valley Audio is here. And he asks, what is with the crowns by some names? Okay, this is a new YouTube feature, and I recommend you just completely ignore it. It's basically a way in which you can make chats competitive. So basically, the more you engage in the chat, the more you're gonna get #1 crown, which is a blue crown rather than the white crown. So the more you guys actually say something in the chat, it puts you up in rank. They call it top fans, and I don't like it at all, but there's no way to turn it off. Or at least there isn't a way that I have seen to turn it off, but it is a new feature in YouTube, and it's nothing that I can do about. It would seem. I don't think I can turn it off. If OBS means obscure broadcast solutions, I don't understand what that means. It just means open broadcast software. I think that's all it means. Let's see. Okay, so turning off monitoring helped. There you go. That's another thing that you would need to do that I neglected to mention. You would need to turn monitoring off. I get feedback loop when I try to record my PC. Yeah, probably because you had monitoring on. So yes, definitely do not have monitoring on if you want to avoid a feedback loop. Because that essentially will send the audio of your microphone through Studio One and OBS twice. So for me personally, when I have a track open in Studio One and I do hit the monitor button, all you guys hear is my voice twice. It doesn't create a feedback loop because I don't have everything turned up enough to do that. Mike and Venus says, somehow the closed captions got turned on this video, and guess what? It is typing, not English. Wait, he goes, no, it is. Crazy distraction, I turned it off. Why I turned it on, I don't know. Maybe Jonny did a setting. No, I have no control over whether CCs are on or not. You can choose to have them on or not. That is entirely up to you. I don't get control over whether closed captions appear on your screen or not. Kyle has his dad joke of the year, which is, I was reading the dictionary in bed last night. I got up to pee. There you go. Rasta Vibe Studio is here. He says, greetings. Hello to you too, my friend. Welcome. Let's see. Oh, this old song again. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the confidence. I'm going back through the chat because I want to make sure I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. All right, Army says, is it possible to transpose a loop with key info in browser to the key of the song whilst auditioning it, similar to how tempo is done, but manually? If you are working in Splice and you are using the Splice integration in Studio One 7, then you can set the Splice integration to be the same key as your song. So when you audition one of the loops in Splice, it auditions in the same key as your song. However, in the normal loops tab of the browser, this is currently not a thing. It's currently not possible to do that. We got 31 people here, but only 22 likes. So let's do another wee like rally to see if we can get up to those 31. By the way, the record for this show stands at 54. So it would be nice if we could actually get up towards 54. That would be awesome. And that was for a Studio One live show that I did, where we were delving into Studio One version 6 live. That was cool. That was way back in 2022. So I would like to smash the living daylights out of that record at some point. And then I would like to smash that record every week. So that'd be great. So the more people you guys can gather to this channel, the better. Because right now I have fast approaching 6,000 subscribers, but I only get like 35 people on the lives on Sunday and on Wednesday. And I would like to get a lot more people here. So it'd be great if we could do that. So if you guys could help me out by sharing, liking, subscribing, sharing the show with your friends tennis partners, with your friends tennis partners lovers, with your friends tennis partners lovers pets, that would be great. And get them all along to come along to Sunday Night Live or Songwriting Simplified. That would be fantastic. And I would appreciate it immeasurably. Keith says, I went out and bought some old vinyl of nature sound effects of wasps. Brought home, had a terrible buzzing sound. It was the B-side. Oh dear God. Let's maybe... Yeah, Keith, I would say, Keith, don't give up your day job. But if you did give up your day job, I don't think that would have particularly good implications. So maybe don't. Chris asks, do you have time to show how to match the tempo of multiple loops of different tempos, not drums? All right, let me see what I can do here. I'm going to close my Dig Myself a Whole song because apparently Mike doesn't like it. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to create a new song. So let's see, blank new song. Now, the easiest way is to have time stretch on by default. So basically, anytime you drag something in, if it has tempo data, it will time stretch to that tempo immediately, instantly. So how do you set that up so that you have that set by default? Well, when you have a template and you create a song with that template, so let's close this one and I'll show you what I mean. So if I go to the start page and if I go new, I've got this blank song template here. And I know, because I've got this little checkbox here, stretch audio files to tempo. I've got this checked. So what happens when I check this box is any audio files that I bring into this song, if they've got tempo data, they will be time stretched to whatever value I set here. So if I set that to 108, it's going to time stretch it to 108. So let's do that, and let's go and grab some loops, and we'll find any old loop. What we got here? So I could put this in here like that, and I'll change the color a wee bit. Let's go see what other loops we've got here. Oh, that I think is B flat minor. So let's see if there's anything in B flat minor, which I can't see here. No, I'm not seeing anything in D flat 1 that's B flat minor. That's okay. Let's go in here. Anything in B flat minor here? Probably not. But that's okay. We can change the key. So, for example, we can take this. Let's have a listen to this. Yeah, that's going to be the wrong key. The wrong kind of style, I should say. Let's go and look in loops here. And see what we've got. Nothing really that's minor here. But this might have something that's minor. Maybe not. Let's see what else we can find here. This will do. We'll duplicate this. And we'll set ourselves just a nice little 5-bar loop. Now this guitar is obviously in the wrong key, but we can bring this in and we can adjust the pitch until it fits. That's easy enough to do. Don't worry, I'm getting there. That'll do. Now we just need a bass, right? Kind of like that. And there you go. So basically all I did there was just drag random shit in from the loops with that little checkbox already checked. So it just brings everything in that has tempo data and they are automatically synced to tempo. So with that set up, it's actually really easy. However, the caveat here is that whatever you bring into Studio One has to have tempo data written to the audio file to start with, so that Studio One has a frame of reference with which to calculate the new tempo. If it doesn't have that, if there's no tempo data, then it won't be able to do that. However, one of the things that now exists in Studio One, I think since version 6.6, was basically Studio One will listen to the audio file and will basically hazard a guess at what the tempo data is. And then it gives you the option to confirm or deny that. So let's say it thinks, okay, this audio file is 130 BPM. And you think, actually, that's probably quite true. It's probably 130 BPM. Then you just confirm that. And Studio One goes, okay, that is the tempo data. And it uses that to then time stretch, either compress or elongate, stretch, either compress or stretch the audio to fit your tempo. So providing you've set that correctly, then it will work and it should sound just fine. The thing to bear in mind here is the more you compress or an audio file, and I don't mean in terms of dynamics, I mean in terms of the actual audio in from this amount of time to this amount of time, or you stretch it, the more you do that, the more you are going to actually get artifacting. And what is artifacting? Artifacting is what you get when something has either been too compressed or too stretched in terms of time, because Studio One basically recalculates the audio over time. And so that's either making it shorter or making it longer. And you'll get artifacting in either case, either too much squishing or too much extending over time, and you'll get artifacting because that audio will have Studio One will basically have to fill in the gaps to make that audio fit that time, and it will sound bad if it's been too squashed or too stretched. So there is a finite amount that you can do. You can't make a piano track that was recorded at 150 BPM sound great at 70. Just not going to happen. Likewise, if you got a good piano track at 70 BPM and then you want it to play faster to 170 BPM, it's not going to sound any good. It just isn't. It's, because it's finite. So you may have just noticed that just a second ago we had a thunderstorm warning issued. That just popped up in my taskbar. Yeah, we are under a thunderstorm warning, but it looks like there's been a new one issued in the last hour. So hopefully it's not going to get too crazy here. All right, let's go back over here. I'm just going to catch up with you guys. You're welcome, Chris. I hope that was helpful for you. It's very, very cool. Remove the pads and you have Around the World by Daft Punk. Yes, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if I get a copyright strike for this. And as Rich says, if it doesn't have tempo data, you can add it manually if you know it. Correct. So when it says not set, but you know what that value is, then you can put that in. And so if you go, I know for a fact that this has come from a particular loop library and it says that it's 130 beats a minute, you can just type in 130 and Studio One will go, aha, 130, perfect, thank you. So there you go. DJ Vu says, this does not make Studio One an exceptional program because most of today's DAWs have such features. Yes, they do. I am failing to see what your point is there. Yes, most modern DAWs have this as a feature. And that's good. That's a good thing that you can do this in pretty much every DAW. So I'm not sure why that would be a bad thing that Studio One actually has this. I would have thought it would be a good thing that Studio One does this as well as all the other DAWs. So I unless I'm misunderstanding something there, DJ, I'm failing to see your point. Rich says, is it worth putting in a feature request for something akin to .rex file generation? This is a fantastic solution for samples. I think it's very well worth putting in a feature request, and you would get my 100% support for that if you do that. Just Bob says, a great show, a hodgepodge of different things Studio One can do. Absolutely. And that's what this show is. That's what this show is about at its heart. It's basically you guys asking questions and me trying to answer them. And if that means I have to demonstrate something, then I have to demonstrate something, and that's cool. I actually quite like doing demos. So, okay. All right. Mike says we have a typhoon here. Yeah. Stay safe, my friend, because typhoons in the Philippines can be very, very destructive, for sure. So yeah, stay safe, my friend. Batten down those hatches and look after yourself and Venus, for sure. Let's see. But PreSonus does it best. Yeah, I think so. I think for as much as there are shared features between Studio One, Logic, Cubase, Studio One, Logic, Cubase, and Pro Tools, that's the other one I was going to say. For as much as there are shared features between all four of those DAWs, I think Studio One has the better way of doing things than all the others, which is why I chose it. I chose Studio One back in 2013, having used Cubase for pretty much 30 years, maybe a little bit over 30 years. I used it pretty much from its very first version. And before that, I used Steinberg Pro 24 on an Atari ST. And then, of course, I went on to Cubase version 1 with Atari ST. And then I graduated up to PCs using Cubase. And, of course, I also used Logic when that was on PC before Apple bought eMagic back in 2002. That happened. And when Apple bought Logic, they pretty much just shut the door on further development of the PC version of Logic, and that was that. So I went back to Cubase and Pro Tools, and that's where I stayed until 2013, when I dumped both of them. Mike, I'm not sure what you're saying here. I didn't realize I was so hated. I don't think you are. So, yeah, let's not be going down that route. I think there's some humor going on here. That's all that's going on. So, yes, I think it's good that there are several different DAWs that have similar features. And I don't see that as a bad thing. I don't see that as a bad thing at all. I think if there was, like, out of all the DAWs there was one DAW that just did not have a particular bare bones basic feature that all the other ones did have, I would think that kind of would be a little bit remiss. However, different DAWs have different focuses. Like, for example, Studio One, when it was initially launched in version 1, did not have any MIDI features at all. None. Zero. Nunca. Zilch. No MIDI at all. And that was by design, believe it or not. That was originally designed. Studio One, when it was originally designed, its focus was not going to be on virtual instruments. Its focus was going to be on audio. So, people who record with microphones and not using virtual instruments. However, they changed that fairly quickly. And they started integrating virtual instruments and MIDI support and everything else. And now, look at it now. Look at what we have now. Is MIDI is the MIDI feature set in Studio One up to the same level as Logic or Cubase or Nuendo? No, it's not. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. I think one thing you've got to bear in mind here is Cubase has been around for 40 years. Pro Tools has been around for 35 years. Logic has been around for 40 years. Those DAWs have a long and storied development history. And they have a long roadmap. And particularly with Cubase, you have a large stratigraphy of code, because even in the most current version of Cubase, there's code going back 10, 15 years. There was a point, I think maybe about 10 or 15 years ago, where they basically did rewrite Studio One, Cubase onto a new code base. So they basically rewrote it a little bit from scratch. So it's the code base for Cubase is a little bit leaner than it used to be, but it's still like 20 or 25 years of code that's still there in Cubase currently. Whereas Studio One was born in 2009, the same year that my middle daughter was born. She was born in 2009 as well. So they are, it's like Studio One is still a teenager, guys. Bear that in mind. When you're thinking about, Studio One should be able to do this, Studio One should be able to do that, because all these other DAWs do that and this and that and the other. Think about where Studio One started, how old it is, and where you could kind of project it is possibly going to go. So those things you've got to think about and bear in mind. DJ says, I think the best store is the one in which we feel the best and create good music. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And in my case, it's Studio One. I have done my best work in Studio One. And I continue to do my best work in Studio One. Occasionally, I still have to use Pro Tools. I don't like using Pro Tools. I really don't. But if I have to, I have to. And to be honest, for the most part, when I'm using Pro Tools, I take the session from Pro Tools and I convert it into an AAF file and I open it in Studio One and I do the work that I have to do there in Studio One, and then I export that as an AAF and I send that back to the Pro Tools guy. And they have no idea that, you know, I've done all my work in Studio One. They think I've all done it in Pro Tools. I've just brought it back into the Pro Tools session and I send the Pro Tools session back to them. Done. And they don't even notice the difference. So, Mike from Peace Valley Audio says, yes, it is. Sound variations is so much better than the way Cubase handles key switches. I think it is now, yes. However, there are things that Cubase does with MIDI that Studio One doesn't yet do. So, yeah, we've still got some work to do with MIDI. For sure. Let's see. We are over time, by the way, folks. We are 4 minutes over, so I'm going to call it here. But I just want to say thank you very much for the little like rallies that we have had. Because we've now got 27 people watching and 26 likes. So, you know, that's pretty darn close to parity. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it a lot. You guys are awesome. And Christina, I'm going to finish with what she has to say here, because this is just great. She says, Studio One has come far. It has. Studio One has come a long, long way in the 16 years that it's been going. Billy Morgan has an after show Zoom, so if you would like to join that, then please do. We have a storm coming in. I have just heard some thunder, so I probably will have to shut down. So I think maybe I won't be there this time, but maybe another time I will be. But for right now, yeah, we've definitely got some thunder incoming. So I think I will shut everything down so that, you know, nothing gets nuked in the studio. That would be pretty bad. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. You guys are freaking awesome. I love you guys very, very much. You guys rock. You are the best darn YouTube community that anyone could ever want or ask for. And I appreciate all of you, whether you're actually in the chat here or whether you are just watching passively and you're not engaging in the chat and you're just watching the show or you're watching this on the replay. You guys are the best. Thank you very much. Please help me get to 6,000 subscribers ASAP. We will have somewhat of a party to celebrate getting to 6,000. That would be pretty cool. And then the next big target is to get to 10,000 subscribers. We are a long way from getting one of those play buttons. You have to get to 100,000 subscribers to get one of those. I might be dead before then. Especially seeing as I have CVI. But we will see. But thank you very much, everybody. And you guys, like I said, are the best. I appreciate you a lot. So we'll be back here for Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday at the same time. That's 6 p.m. Central, midnight UK, 1 a.m. Central Europe time. And you can figure out Pacific and Mountain time and all the other times. You can go and use dateandtime.com to figure out what time that is for wherever you are in the world. So if you're in Australia, for example, if you're in Australia, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be like mid-morning for you. So yeah, we'll see you back here then on Wednesday, and then Sunday after that. So stick around, folks. There's lots coming up on the channel. Not just more shows, more opportunities for you guys to ask questions, but there's more videos coming as well. I'm working on a whole litany of new videos. And when they drop, you guys are going to love them. I promise you. They will blow you away. Without question, they will blow you away. All right, folks. Until then, good night, everybody. Ow, I have to go and open my other song. I'm an idiot. There we go. All right, folks. I wish you all a very good night. Good night.